$1.2 billion, and $934.8 million of that is to be distributed to the localities inside of Utah. Daniel's allocation, and this is a surprise to me, but it's based on our population, it's $97,553 that can be paid to Daniel in 3 installments. The first installment of $32,518 would have been paid in June if we had known about it and if we had applied for it and proceeded as we should have. The maximum amount of $97,000 is not necessarily guaranteed due to there could be some shortfalls in funding, or we may not need the money or whatever. But anyway, that is the way it is set up right now. These funds can only be used to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the key word is a necessary expenditure that's incurred due to a public health emergency from COVID-19. It cannot be used to fill up shortfalls in government revenue, and Eric has just shown us that we don't have shortfalls. So that's a great thing, but a lot of governments do. And they were hoping to be able to use that money to fill in gaps in their budget, but that's not going to be one of the eligible expenses. It can be used for items that are not budgeted for in your most recent budget adopted before the act went into effect. So for us, I believe that would be our 2019-20 budget before we amended it. We've already closed that budget out. But anyway, any expenditures that we didn't budget for, that are eligible, we'd be able to claim. These would have to be costs that were incurred between March 1st of this year and December 30th, and it must adhere to the reporting requirements that they set up, and we would have to return any unspent funds to the state. In turn, the state would then have to refund them to the federal government. Also, we would have to repay any funds that were determined to have been spent inappropriately. But we'd be real careful about that, of course. Some items that would be eligible. Now, there's like 3 pages of items that would be eligible, and I've just narrowed it down to these few little things that I thought might apply to us. The first one I have here, emergency medical response, including emergency medical transportation related to COVID-19. The reason I was talking to Chief Giles is that at the moment we have a couple of ambulances that are out of service, and they are in the process of trying to purchase what we're calling a transport van. It's not a fully equipped ambulance, but it's a van that would be able to be used to transport from facility to facility. Apparently, a lot of our EMS service is just transportation for a patient from one facility to another, and they don't necessarily require all of the services of an ambulance. This would be a cheaper vehicle, it would be easier to use, and it would save the resources of the district in a big way if we can afford to get this transport van. Chief Giles tells me that Midway, Heber City, and Charleston have all obligated funds that from this COVID that they would then transfer over to the fire district, which is allowed, and then the fire district would be able to do this purchase. And if the council decides to go ahead with this, I would advocate for that. I am not going to make a motion or even vote. I'm going to abstain because I know you can hear how I would vote on this. But anyway, that is why I'm bringing this to our council as the main thrust of this fund that we might be able to receive. We could also use this to cover any expenses that we need to improve telework capabilities for public employees. And so if we need any office equipment, for any computers and this kind of thing, anything that was necessary for us to have COVID or to have meetings during this COVID period. And remember, we're not out of this yet. As you can hear from my voice, I've been exposed, and hopefully I'm not going to be able to get sick from this, but we'll see what happens. We could give grants to small businesses to reimburse them for the cost of business interruption due to their COVID-19, and we could even offer assistance to individuals for costs of covering their utilities if they are unable to cover those utilities due to an illness from COVID-19. I don't know if we have any people in our community that would be eligible for that or not. We would have to seek those persons out. We couldn't, though, for instance, just pay money directly into our water fund because, somebody couldn't pay. We would have to make the grant directly to the individual, and the individual then have to use the money to cover their utilities themselves. The government themselves are responsible for making determinations as to what expenditures are necessary due to the public health emergency, and we would not need to submit the expenditures in advance for approval. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. There's a lot of paperwork to read through, but in order to proceed, there's an agreement online that must be signed by the town chief executive, the mayor, or our chief financial officer, which is our treasurer. And you can also add an authorized representative. So you could appoint somebody that would be willing to work with this situation so that, the mayor and the treasurer wouldn't have to do this alone. The funding would be wired directly into the BTIF account. It's an interest-bearing account that's held by the state, and we draw our funds directly from that. And then the town would be responsible for keeping accurate records of the eligible expenses and reporting requirements, which is set up online. So that's it in a nutshell. I don't know if the council would entertain this or not, but if you have any questions, I would try to answer those.
So Mary, myself being on the CBDG board, we got lots of money and we did the small business and some of the other community disbursements of those funds. And I found it to be the most incredibly, I couldn't even understand all the criteria. None of us on the board really could. It got passed up to a higher level for them to determine all the different businesses that were able to receive some of the money. The criteria in the money, you could not receive any other funds from any other support sources. I, as a business owner, I wouldn't even touch it with a 10-foot pole because it was so comprehensive and just very difficult to even deal with. I don't know how anybody in at least 5 people or us would be able to even remotely manage or work on those funds. I see us helping the county with some of their EMS issues because that's pretty clear. Once again, as I've noticed, things have changed. Some of the qualifying things may not be qualifying anymore, and so I would hate to get that money, do things that we thought was okay, have it then come in and get audited, and then having to pay the money back. It seems very encumbered and incredibly a lot of red tape if we were to get into multiple issues. I like helping the county out in the EMS and fire. I don't know if we really want to, I don't know if we have the management power to even go through all those processes. Comment?
Charleston is doing it. Midway is doing it. Heber City is doing it. I think we could probably handle the paperwork. I think more along the lines of large grants to either the fire district or to law enforcement to cover, expenses that they might have in dealing with COVID if they didn't have, if they had a budget shortfall. That is allowed.
My understanding was that when we first kind of discussed, when you kind of brought this up, because I didn't really catch this part of any of it, was that the county would help administer or help us get through that. Were they just going to help us with the application and that's it, or were they going to help administer? Because the administration, even though I get Charleston and I get some other people are doing it, that doesn't mean they're going to do it right, and that doesn't mean they're not going to have some massive headaches when they try to get into the real finites of giving money to small businesses that may or may not even qualify in their paperwork, and then the time frame, and then getting the applications, and then divvying out who does deserve it and who doesn't deserve it. It was a very, very big project for us on CDBG. It's a big deal.
Well, I work with CDBG as well. I don't think this is even close to that sort of level of intricacy. I'm responsible for keeping all the records for CDBG, and I know exactly what you're talking about. So I don't think that this is anything like that. And yes, if we didn't spend the money appropriately, then we'd have to make it up and return the money. But I don't see that that would happen. If you're concerned about the technicality of it, I could follow up with this and check with the county officials and see if, you know, what they're having to deal with, and see if that has been too burdensome. Or if, I don't know, we could check with Charleston and see what they're doing as well.
And when I say burdensome, I'm talking about the small businesses applying for the loans and that criteria. I'm not really talking about some of the other things you mentioned with regards to, you know, fire and EMS. That seems pretty clear and seems fairly easy, and that would be something that, you know, we've got one or two items, the audit would look at it, if in fact, and we wouldn't do it unless we knew that those funds were appropriated for that specific issue. I guess it's some of the smaller things that get a little more technical in my mind.
I've got a question.
Understand. We don't have to do any of those things. You know, we get to decide what is necessary and what isn't. So I don't know if we have any people in that category or not. I just picked a few little items that I thought might be of interest that the town could do for our people if there were people in need.
My question.
So,
I was gonna say, so I like the first few. I like the fewer, bigger tickets to help out the community. I think that's a great idea.
I had a comment or a question. Comment. So, yeah, likewise, as far as helping the county with the EMS and also the sheriff's department, if the paperwork isn't that burdensome, we work together to get them the funds that would help them out, that's going to in turn help us out and the rest of the community in the valley and the county. Do we have to put, or if we have available, or somebody else in the business end of it applies for this, you know, do we just, you know, we're not open to that, or are we open to that, and then how much paperwork is involved if and whether they're even approved? Are we penalized for not offering that? We just go for the two items for the counties.
I don't think we're penalized for anything. As I say, the paperwork reads that the government officials, us, the council, gets to decide what we consider necessary appropriations. I'm looking right now at the application for the local government allocation agreement. It's one page. It's online. You fill in a couple of names and sign it at the bottom. As far as the paperwork goes, I think it's a quarterly report. And I think that Sherry would probably be the most capable of doing that because she's already familiar with our state documents. She reports these things online, you know, to Transparent and to the state auditor and all of those different things. This is all set up by the state auditor. So I think that she'd probably be the person that could handle this. Our responsibility here would just be to keep track of any sales receipts or invoices or just the general paperwork things that we need to, you know, justify the expenditures.
So
and
just
if we had spent over $750,000 in federal funds, then we would be required to do what they call a single audit, which is a more complicated audit situation. But I don't think we're going to come anywhere near $750,000 this year. So don't know. Like I say, I just wanted to look into this because it's a program that's out there that a lot of people are using. And when I heard about it, I don't know exactly how we would have been informed about it, but apparently we weren't, and I wanted to make sure that the council did become aware.
So how do we move forward on some of the other things we're talking about tonight? Is there a time frame that, can we wait till next meeting? Do we need to do something before the meeting? Because we're certainly going to have to get together and probably do some, you know, get our own criteria for our town and what we want to do.
I don't know the answer to that question. Like I say, the first, we've already missed a couple of deadlines that they had set up. One was June, one was July. And so since we didn't know about it, I'm not sure that we would be getting all of this money anyway.
Right.
But maybe it would be prudent to check into it just a little bit more, follow up a little bit. I could email some people and try to get some answers if you have some questions.
Well, in your mind, is it, I mean, I've read your, what you sent out. Is it as simple as asking for the monies that's available, getting, I want to identify our uses before we even really signed it and wanted the monies, and then knew what, I mean, if we said, okay, we're gonna have two items, we're gonna split it 50-50, whatever money we get, or we can, I guess I just don't wanna make it too complicated, but I want to help as much as we can. That's, I guess I'm just, that's my outlook, and we need to have a meeting, so we would have to at least get together and determine what we all felt was a appropriate direction.
Okay.
I mean, wouldn't you think, or no?
Well, like I say, I would identify the fire district.
Sure.
I possibly would identify law enforcement. I would possibly identify a fund that we could use that would help some of our, perhaps some of our residents that have been caught with bills to pay that they can't because they've lost their jobs, or things like that. But you're right, there's administration to it, definitely, and it would require some work, no doubt about that.
So
Would you like me to proceed with any questions, or would you like me to just report to the fire district that we decided that we're not going to do this? I would like some direction tonight, because I know that they are anxious to make this purchase, and I would like to be able to say yea or nay.
Okay. Mary, this is Eric. I got a couple of questions, and you don't have to answer them if you don't want to. Are you willing to take this on and administer this? Are you in a position to do that?
I think, like you say, it has, I'm looking at the application, which does have to be signed by the mayor or by our treasurer. I think Sherry and I, if she's willing to work with me, could handle this. It would, like I say, it has to be authorized by somebody who can sign the contract, but then you can, you add in a contact person's name and everything, and so I'd be willing to be that contact person. And I'd be willing to follow up with the state and with the county to see how I could coordinate with them.
As I mentioned before, I think it's super positive on some of the other things, and I would certainly give you, I'd like to see us move forward, and I know that adds more work to your burden, but if you and Sherry and work with that, and I think we ought to do what we can to help everybody out. Excuse me, not everybody out, help the ones we identify as a council, or to help them out.
How about if we,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so.
I was just going to say, how about if, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, how about if we, if you allow me to contact the state official to which I would submit this application, and ask them some questions about deadlines and required paperwork and that kind of thing, and then report back to you.
I think that's great. Something you need to ask too, the PPP program that came out, it changed like 5 times from the first people to the second people to the third, or at least the first and second changed as far as some of the payback and other things. I feel that this is going to be something like that, and I'd really like to make sure that the folks you talk to, that their information is solid, and they can't just say, well, I thought so, but the governor changed it. You know what I'm saying?
My experience with this paperwork is that the original guidelines that came out were pretty sketchy, but in September they came out with some others that actually have broadened the scope. And there's one section that talks about upgrading rural water access, and that popped out at me, and I'm not sure what we would do with that, but it's possible. You know, we'd have to take a close look at that. But again, you know, it's anything that we don't use or anything that we use inappropriately, we would have to return to the state. So that's where the situation is.
Is there a deadline, Mary, for us to get on this second wave?
I don't know. That's the thing. We should have already done this. There's nothing that says, at least I haven't read anything that says if you miss this deadline, you won't get anything. You know, we may not get all of it, but I don't think we're eligible for all of it anyway. We wouldn't use $97,000, I can't think. But
We'll try.
you know, if we had a good use for it, maybe we could. But the only way I can find out is by sending this application in or contacting this person to send the application to. He's in the governor's office of management budget, and I bet you he would have those answers.
I think it's a great
And I should
idea.
have done that prior.
I think it's a great idea, Mary, and I know that you'd be able to handle these things. And Sherry, I'd like the council's permission on it, but I think we ought to do what we can.
Yeah, and possibly even, if it's possible, to get some of the funds for the Storm Haven for the sewer
So
system, that possible.
it's on our agenda. Do you want a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion that we charge Mary with finding more information and getting back with information regarding the CARES Act.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. Any comment? Mary?
Meet the phone.
No, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote, so I'm not going to make a comment.
Okay. Any other comment from anybody? All in favor? All right.
Eric, aye.
Chip, aye.
John, aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations, Mary. You're on the hook for the CARES Act, but
Sorry about your 3% raise, Sherry. Just take out 8 of it.
good.
I
No.
do have a request.
Yes.
I do have a request that I, as soon as I get these answers, that I talk to you, Mayor, and that you would authorize to go ahead and do it instead of waiting until the next council meeting.
I second that.
I would just soon send that out email and have us respond to email prior to you jumping on.
So I can do it probably before next meeting if we all agree, but I understand why everyone would want to see the information prior to giving me the information for okay, but I would think we could certainly do it before the next meeting, yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Great,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
You want to see that?
Yeah,
I think everybody would want to see that.
yeah,
Stephanie.
that's good. Yeah, because the next meeting's only a couple weeks away.
That's true.
Thank you. Discussion, if possible approval, but discussion of the TRC construction concept zone change. Item number 6. Turn the time over to Eric.
Okay, so this item we have is TRC Construction. They ran into a information block in planning. We requested more and more information from them. So they've actually missed the deadline for the application for the zone change. What I'm asking the council tonight to do is initiate the zone change. So when he turns in his applications, we're able to send the notices and get moving forward with that application. This is down at the Harry Wyant property, and that packet is in your thing tonight.
So what's
Still
Don't know where it is or what it is.
So it's at the very end of 3000 South on the right-hand side. Harry Wyant had a night
Between that and
That was the
Highway.
first stuff that they're.
189.
those are where the trucks are coming past our house and coming from.
No, there's no trucks in that.
Today,
Not on our side. They might be coming from Charleston, but they're not on our side.
It's just a field right now.
oh, got the wrong place. I thought it was that one that got a zoning change there that goes all the way through to Highway 40.
Other end
Where
of
the
3000
Quonset
South,
was.
down by the
Oh,
transfer station.
Transfer station, yeah. I'm sorry.
189 and on the right-hand side of 3000, that last lot on the road.
What
Okay,
was,
got it. I'm at the wrong end of 3000.
Yeah.
Yeah, what
2 lots on
was,
both ends do this though.
Yeah.
what was the changes?
The changes from what? From Wyant? This will be a boat dealership is what they're looking at, along with a gas station on the corner and then some miscellaneous retail outlet.
What kind of dealership, Eric?
It's a high-end boat dealership. So all the storage went away, and that will be storage for his boat inventory.
Okay. So are these elevations still what they propose?
Yes. They want,
Just for as a little background on this property, for the members of the council that might not remember, this property back in 2008 and 2009, the council, a former council, converted this to commercial. And then in 2013, because of the recession, the previous owner could not proceed with his plans. The council reverted this property back to RA5. So it was zoned commercial at one time for quite an extended period.
yes, and we're not asking tonight for that vote. We're asking for the council to initiate the process. That's why it's on the agenda.
I would think we would want to.
That's why we're here.
Are you ready for a motion,
Almost.
or do you want to talk about it first?
Yeah, no, well, yeah, I'm just waiting for other comments from the other folks.
Okay.
Again, the plan and all that will still have to be worked out. It's just the concept that has been approved, so.
I make a motion that we move forward on as far as the application and the different things that have to be addressed.
Zone change.
Planning commission for the zone change.
Mary, did you hear that motion?
Not exactly. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, make a motion that we move ahead on this rec sorption, the TRC construction on the zone change and the different things that have to go through the process for the planning commission and to be initiated.
Okay, we have a first to initiate the process. Do we have a second?
I second that.
We have a first and a second. Any last discussion? None, all in favor? Roll call.
Eric, aye.
Chip, aye.
John, aye.
Stephanie, aye.
Mary, aye. And this is for two separate properties, is that correct?
No, this is all for one property. Well, no, there are,
Okay.
he owns both of those. Harry Wine owns,
Can we designate which property you're talking about then? You know, we need to have that in the motion. And,
we should,
let me think. I'm trying to think through the process. The process is a public hearing, and we have to notify all of the people within, all the property owners within what, 500 feet?
500
Is
feet.
that right?
That's correct.
500 feet, okay, and do we have to have a planning commission hearing and also a council meeting hearing?
Only one public hearing is required. We've combined them in the past.
Okay, all right. Well, if this is only one property, let's be sure and designate the parcel number and the serial number. You don't have to do it tonight, but make sure that that's in the minutes.
Okay.
Just so that, you know, there's no question as to what property we're talking about.
Okay. Well, both of those parcels, yes, both of those parcels are owned by the same person. So it will be both parcels.
Okay, it is two parcels then, okay. All I'm saying is that for the public to know what we're talking about, you know, because, you know, when we say down at the end of 3000 South and 189, that's kind of nebulous, so let's just narrow it down with the parcel number, and like I say, in the minutes, that would be a good place for that to be.
Okay. That will not be at the end, in the public notice, the end of 3000 South.
Okay,
Do we
now
have
tell
parcel
me I
numbers? We
know
got an address. We got an
Okay.
address, do we have parcel numbers?
I think that takes care of item number 6. Approval of resolution DR 2020-09-14, interlocal snow removal agreement. And, I don't know if I need to read the whole agreement as much as, does everyone have copies of that? And
Yes, so it's in there.
okay, great. The thing that kicks we had some increases, obviously, a big increase from 75 to, looks like,
$160.
$160.30 per hour per snowplow services. So, this went up pretty much double, actually a little over double. I don't know that we have any room to negotiate or anything else with it. My understanding was they kind of started looking back at things and saw that we had not been charged the proper fees, and they brought us up to the proper fees, apparently. Anybody else have any more to add to that?
Is this from the county or a private contract?
County, for their county snowplow.
Could it be bid out to the public?
You're good.
Yeah, yeah.
If somebody's got the equipment, I really regret. I mean, the county could use some competition.
There's probably some of this worth looking at. I don't know that, a machine, I don't know. It's certainly worth looking at. Find out.
Yeah, it could be.
At that dollar, 75 was a good rate. 160 is a little different.
160 is still a good rate.
It is. It's still a lot.
That's a man in a truck.
So,
Yeah, how much are those trucks each?
$160 done.
so this is something that I would need to, I'd like to have a motion on if we want to, at this point, move forward and then look into some of the other options that we may have for sure. Any discussion on it? If not, the chair will entertain a motion on the snowplow agreement.
I'll make a motion that we accept the agreement as stated, but I would like a discussion for maybe as this goes on, maybe during this year, that we get some, maybe put out some bids and just find out where we're at. So, well, I sure hate to be caught with our pants down, so to speak.
Well, the county's done a great job. And
They have done a great job, and there's no question there. And so, just to satisfy our own questions, to put it out to bid for later, for open, just to see what comes back. But as far as time and everything else,